Eight types of stupa. This morning, we're going to begin to look at how all of these 8 types of stupa are completely represented in every satsa, and also the benefits of making and enshrining satsas, as well as how this is done. The text will actually begin, however, with a little bit of review of what was gone over last night. And since you now have an illustration of the 8 types of stupa, we'll show you which is which, so that you not only have a verbal description, but something to look at. First of all, this text by Kamachami Rinpoche on satsas begins Namo Lokeshwaraya, and then he writes, having prostrated to the Arya Compassionate One, I will write a little bit about the benefits of relics and satsas. Now, by relics here, he's referring, as we saw last night, to the stupas themselves, which, as he explained, are or contain the relics of the Dharmakaya. When he says, I'm going to write a little bit about this, Rinpoche says what he means is he's going to write about it in a way that anyone can understand. So he says this in order that the reader not be intimidated by the misconception that he's writing for scholars. He's writing so that anyone can understand and put this into practice. In general, there are 3 types of supports or representations of the Buddha. Representations of, or in the word kind of means support or container, but representations of the Dharmakaya, representations of the Sambhogakaya, and representations of the Nirmanakaya. Now, satsas, such as the one that Rinpoche is holding right now, are considered primarily representations of the Dharmakaya. Statues and tankas of deities are considered representations of the Sambhogakaya, and statues and tankas of Buddha Shakyamuni or of lineage gurus are considered supports or representations primarily of Nirmanakaya. Now, with regard to the representations of the Dharmakaya, as we saw last night, there are, broadly speaking, 3 main shapes or configurations. There is that which is known as shaped like an overturned begging bowl, the simplest, which, as we saw last night, is within the general class of representations of Dharmakaya, primarily the representation of the Dharmakaya of the Dharmakaya. Then the second is that which is said to be shaped like a hut or a building. Usually Rinpoche said it has 2 stories, and that within representations of the Dharmakaya is a representation of the Sambhogakaya aspect of the Dharmakaya, because it is the Dharmakaya's qualities. And then finally, there is the stupa that is shaped like a victory banner, which becomes progressively narrower or tapers to the top. And that is a representation of the Nirmanakaya aspect primarily of the Dharmakaya. Within the latter, the victory banner shaped stupa are the 8 types of stupa of which you have an illustration. Now, in addition to stupas, satsas, or in addition to the 8 types of stupa, satsas are basically of this third type as well. They are of the victory banner shaped type of representation of the Dharmakaya. Now, before going on to the satsas themselves and explaining why they contain all 8 forms of stupa, we'll go through again, now that you have an illustration of them, the 8 types of stupa. First of all of the 8 stupas of the Sugata, which are the 8 stupas, each of which commemorates a specific event in the Buddha's life, beginning with his birth, culminating with his parinirvana. All of these are depicted within every satsa, as we'll see later. Now, all of them can have a base of any shape that is considered beautiful. For example, Rinpoche said, if you look at the illustration, you'll see in the center of the page a stupa that's built on a lion throne. The lion throne, Rinpoche said, is actually optional. It's very customary nowadays, but the base of the stupa need not be a lion throne. It can be a square base, a round base, a lotus base, or a semicircular base. In particular, when we're talking about satsas, the base of a satsa is lotus flower shaped. So satsas don't have lion thrones, they have a lotus. But it has the same meaning, as we'll see in a few minutes, as the base of a stupa, which is it represents, as we saw last night, the 10 virtuous actions, which are the very basis and starting point of the path to Buddhahood. Now, to go through the 8 stupas in order, if you look at the picture that you have in front of you, on the top left corner, the first stupa, which has lotus petals on all 4 levels, is called the lotus stupa. And it is the stupa that commemorates the Buddha's birth in the grove at Lumbini, when upon birth he arose and took 7 steps in each direction, leaving lotus flowers in his footprints. The second stupa, again in the middle of the top line on the page, has 4 stages to it, and this is called the stupa of Great Awakening, and represents or commemorates the Buddha's achievement of Buddhahood, of perfect awakening at Vajrasana or Bodhgaya. The third stupa in the order of the events of the Buddha's life, is shown on the top right corner of the page. And it is distinguished by the fact that it has many little doors or representations of doors adorning its 4 upper stages. And this is called the auspicious stupa of many doors or gates. Sometimes it's called the Dharmachakra stupa. It commemorates the Buddha's teaching of the many gates of Dharma in general, and first arose or appeared at Varanasi when he gave his first sermon. Moving down the page, on the left side of the middle line, you will see a stupa that has prominences or projections in each of the 4 directions. Only the one in the front is really depicted here. And this design or this originated when the Buddha performed miracles for 2 weeks, having been challenged to a contest of miracles by 6 Tirthika teachers. So it is called either the stupa of defeating the Tirthikas or the stupa of miracles. Then moving to the right side, leave the middle out for now, move to the right side of the middle line, and you will see a stupa with a staircase depicted coming down from the base of the vase down to the base of the upper levels. And this is called the stupa of descent from the realm of the Devas, and first arose when the Buddha returned to this world on the site of what is now Benares, from the realm of the 33 Devas. Although he could have, Rinpoche said, miraculously arrived here as a gesture of gratitude, the Devas, Brahma and Indra, created a staircase, made of gold, silver, and lapis lazuli, and the Buddha descended to this world on that staircase. So that is the 5th type of stupa. If you go to the bottom left corner of the page, you will see a stupa where the 4 corners on each of the 4 stages are cut off, making it octagonal, somewhat rounded. And this stupa arose when the Buddha overcame Devadatta's attempt to split the Sangha. So it is called the schism healing or schism resolution, a stupa, as the rounding of the shape represents. Then on the middle of the bottom line, you will see a stupa where one level, it's a little hard to see in a 2-dimensional depiction, but one of the 4 stages is square, but the other 3, the upper 3, are round. And this stupa first arose when the Buddha used his blessing to lengthen his life for the benefit of his disciples. And then finally, the stupa that's on the bottom right of the page is the Parinirvana stupa, which appeared upon the Buddha's Parinirvana at Kushnagara. Oh, and then Rinpoche said, now back to the middle. The middle is designed to show the decorations with which stupas are often adorned. You remember last night we talked about bells and hanging ribbons and different sorts of decorations. Those are depicted in the middle.